I always told myself it's either this or I don't want to do anything else.
Right.
It's either this or I'm done. And that drove me to always excel. So like, that's a brilliant point you're bringing up. Yeah, it's like De Niro says in Heat to Al Pacino. He's like, I don't want to do anything else. I rob banks. That's all I want to do. And he's like, well, I chase guys like you. That's all I want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it. End of conversation.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
Yeah.
So
his work can be found in some of the biggest blockbuster movies, such as Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man Homecoming, to name a few. He's an illustrator, concept artist, known for working in the film industry, as well as Art Directors Guild member. Please welcome Aleksander Mandradjiev. In this episode, we take a closer look at his artistic career, where he finds his influences for his iconic keyframe art, as well as some of the pitfalls of artistic growth that many of us can relate to. Hope you can enjoy this one. Let's go.
I need to be very, very in tune and happy with my mind.
Yeah, you have a very specific style of the way you work, you know. But maybe before we roll into that, like, is there anything that we could plug in from the start, you know, like anything going on your end that you would want to talk about?
Yeah, actually, recently, Jen, she is my fiance. Her and I, we started up back doing these YouTube video vlogs, motivational videos for artists that are starting up, and also for anything, for like a better state of mind. So we just started producing this, and little by little we'll be putting them up once a week. I'm really excited about it. I've always wanted to be doing shooting and editing, putting small things together.
Right.
I want to make a movie one day, but I know this is a little bit off the path of something cinematic, even though we are treating it like that. But
hey, it's a project, you know. That's what matters.
Yeah, people could go and exactly. If people want to see it, they could check out my Instagram. It's in my link in the bio, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description.
Sure.
Where is it going to be available? Is it going to be like YouTube or
mainly YouTube? Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you guys going to have like a channel and start dropping some nuggets there.
Exactly. Channel's called Jenny with Mandra. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fun.
Simple.
Like anything inspirational is always fun, you know, like getting something positive out there. That's one of the things that, I mean, we've been talking about it, right? Like one of the things about news is like they always find negative things and just to rile you up and feel and make you feel like really bad about things and possibly even make you feel bad about other people. That's just like, to me, it's so asinine and I don't know. I didn't listen to news for past couple of years, which was a blast because I could just focus on work. And if there was anything like super important that I needed to know, I would just hear it from friends,
right?
You know,
right.
But now it's just like, I think it's I'm not hoping, but I think it's going to be in a way a cornerstone for news agencies. People are. The level of trust that people have towards it is, I think, at the all-time low.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like they had an opportunity to make it right, and they blew it. They went the completely opposite way. So
It's a circus.
it's a circus, yeah. So I don't want to focus on that at all.
Nope, neither do I.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I'm pretty sure everyone who's listening is like, shut up about the news already.
Shut up about that stuff. God, every day we hear that. Yeah.
How's the whole situation? I mean, you've been working from home for a while now, but you mostly work in the studio, right? Like, or how is your work shaping up normally?
Yeah, when I'm called over at Marvel, I work at the studio, and other times before Marvel, I was on Call of the Wild, and we were required to go there and work in the studio. That was also a great time. But usually I'm working from home.
Okay.
And I really enjoy it because the freedom you have to manage your own time. I mean, I could work until 4 a.m, and it's totally okay. I feel odd doing it at Marvel like that.
Yeah,
but it's possible.
Yeah,
you can stay there, but it's creepy. Like, you're the only one in the cubicle. Every once in a while, somebody walks in to check a light switch or something, and you're like, oh boy.
Yeah. How long you've been with Marvel? It's been a couple of years, right?
It's a couple of years. It's on and off. I started with originally with Spider-Man: Homecoming. Actually, Doctor Strange reshoots, and then
when
Spider-Man.
was that? Which year was that?
2000. I feel like it was end of 2015.
Okay.
2016.
Okay.
And yeah, and then after Panther, after Infinity War, I was gone from there, and then I came back 2018.
Gotcha. You know, it's kind of interesting because Marvel, it almost seems like this one place in Hollywood right now, in past few years, where you meet all of your friends because everyone is working on those shows.
I gotta say, I was highly anticipated, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass or anything, but I was really anticipating, like, oh, I hope Mache gets to work on anything. I hope they call him up. You know, there were several times where we need more artists, and names are thrown out. I threw yours out. I threw a bunch of other friends out, and whatever sticks. I'm so glad that I got to meet you, because I've been admiring your work since I very first started in the film industry. I found your Last of Us pieces online and on CG Hub, and I'm like, this is insane. This is exactly what I'm striving for.
You're making me blush.
It's okay. Your
I
face
appreciate
is
it.
as red as that poster now. Look at that. No, I'm just joking.
I just had a podcast the other week with James Klein. I was totally nerding out. It's like, yeah. Oh my God, James Klein.
Yeah, that was a good podcast.
Yeah, James, such a great guy. Yeah, he was one of like reasons why I started digital art. Like not why I started, but kind of shaped the way I was thinking about art and like what's possible, you know.
Yeah.
Seeing his Ryan Church and Craig Mullins, you know, pretty much the whole early, you know, Star Wars crew that kind of blew up, and then Dylan Cole, you know, Ben Proctor, all of those, you know, big name, like now big names, back then big names, but also like groundbreaking art, you know. Right. So yeah, James said like it's weird, you know, just like because I was like nerding out, but it was funny. No, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. I mean, we never had a chance to meet in person up until recently, when I was, you know, like was sort of quote unquote back in the studio a lot, because I've been working from home past, I don't know, 6 years, like 5 years almost. And I never felt the need to work in the studio a lot. I feel like just the commute itself is such a giant waste of time. And as you said, just the flexibility of working from home, you're you know, you're up to your own devices. You don't have to set up anything. Everything is already working. Yep. You know, and now it's almost like, hey, I was right.
Yeah.
In a way, but But yeah, it seems like you've been on and off, right? Like working from home and then working
Pretty,
from in the studio.
yeah, yeah. It's been on and off. Exactly. I I've I don't know. There's just something. It's a split thing. There's something really energizing when you're sitting there with the guys, and it pushes you. You grow in ways you didn't expect. When you're at home, for me at least, I like to watch things or listen to things that could inspire me. I listen to a lot of Rogan, and then I listen to tech reveals, demos, whatever, of new software, the new
Right.
Unreal thing, and I'm like starting to get ideas like, wow, that's amazing. If that's possible, then maybe I could try doing something like this, or so. I try to find different ways to fuel that side that otherwise would be fueled by my coworkers.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, don't you think it's like so much better when you're in your own studio and the only interruption you can get is pretty much self-inflicted?
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It is nice to be in this situation. I mean, working from home.
Yeah.
I guess I missed it a bit.
Yeah,
But
for sure. It's good to change things up every now and then, you know? Like I found the fact that I went back to the studio for a couple of months. It wasn't full time, but it was enough for me to sort of like, get that vibe, the studio vibe again. Again, like commute was brutal. I hated it, but just the idea of, being with the team and working with them, that was fun. But like, it's one of those things that I think it's good for a short amount of time.
yeah,
And it was good, and it's only good for like specific projects, specifically to me. Like there's only a bunch of people that I would do it for, that I know is like really, really a pleasure to work with them, and it's worth my time too, because there's like this specifically too. We've worked with like different artists and production designers and art directors. They're so vastly different, and some of them are very easy to work with online and impossible to work with on site.
yeah,
And vice versa, like there's some production designers that when you're on site, they're like the sweetest thing, and then online just the communication breaks down, and it's very difficult to get anything done.
Absolutely.
And it's all personalities, right? Like just the preferences of how things work out. How do you think it's going to be in the film industry now, like with this whole situation? It seems like we are all going to work from home for a long time.
I think so too. I mean, I think I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about that, and he said something interesting, or something true, I guess. I mean, people that are really going to get hit hard by this are the Teamsters, the more like hands-on building the sets and.
Oh yeah.
But as far as
don't you think that's going to come back soon? I mean, as the country is opening up, and we're learning more about the virus, and there's like safety precautions that are safety measures. Here's one thing about that just frustrates me actually a little bit. Like those. I don't understand some of the rules that are imposed on the public. Like it feels like it's a giant infringement of our rights as citizens, because like on one hand, like this is an interesting one. This is like one that kind of like was a light bulb for me. Like Alcoholic Anonymous, right? That's basically a group that needs help. That's just a mental health issue that you need those meetings.
Mm-hmm.
That's
absolutely,
you need those meetings in order to be well. Those were prohibited, right? To happen. Meanwhile, fucking liquor stores are essential and open. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that is
right.
That is interesting. I didn't think about that.
So there's like those arbitrary things but that's beside the point. Right now, so like some of the states are fully open, and that's great. Like the economy has to come back. It's very important. I think it's just for livelihood of everyone, right? But specifically to what you said, with set designers, don't you think that they can always like accommodate, like, hey, maybe it's gonna go slower, or is it gonna change that entire world completely, like with things like the live sets, the Unreal live sets, the sort of the domes, all that
more
stuff,
virtual stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I think I you know what, I'm not an expert in this, but just to assume, I think a lot of things are going to go in for filmmaking and in a more virtual path. I don't know why it hasn't been like that since a while ago already.
Right, yeah.
Like just
Technology
working
is there,
from
right?
home. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
get practical sets and shooting on location. That's beautiful too. But yeah, I don't understand why. And also, you open such a wider platter of artists.
Yeah, it's more
from
competition
all over
for
the
us.
world.
Yeah,
sure, but that makes you better in a way, or
that's true.
you learn.
That's true.
You bond stronger too. That community becomes stronger. I think. But yeah, I kind of like it being remote. I kind of like it evolving to that, because for example, as freelance artists, you should have that freedom to be like, I'm working from home. Very often in small gigs that I've taken, it's been a demand, like, you got to be in the office. So I'm like, okay, I'll be respectful. I'll come in. And
Right.
Why am I here? No disrespect. I'm not dissing the people I'm working for, but why am I here? You just made me come here, like we were talking earlier. Like, what is this, a power play? I could be working from home. I have the right to work from home as a freelance artist. You can't make me. So anyway,
I mean, they can kind of, if that's the only gig around.
Yeah. If they can take that advantage. I guess that's when you could be a bit more strategic with the way you sell yourself. But yeah, sure.
I get it though. Yeah. It's a matter of like how much pull you as a person have, like as an artist, like how bad they need you. I understand both sides. At the one end, it's unless you have someone who has experience working with people offline, right? Because sometimes it's easier if you have a person to work with that is in the same time zone, right? Because then you can sort of like align and make sure that the work is done in the right manner. Like it's way more difficult with like Europe and let's say Europe and US, right? Or even Asia and US. Australia and US is kind of interesting. It's like, hey, we're having a meeting on Monday. It's like, wait, is that Sunday or Tuesday for me?
Is that yesterday?
Was it yesterday or tomorrow? So that's one of the things that gets confusing, and unless you have experience and have like a actual workflow, like a specific workflow that you build up, like almost like a pipeline of this is where I can find your work. We're screen sharing, we're talking about things, and then it's all done. Like, not everyone is, like, I think, well versed to do that just yet.
Right.
But I feel like this situation is going to force, and is forcing, a lot of people to do it, and then also realize, like, hey, it's actually maybe not specifically in our business, but like in Silicon Valley, it's a giant disruptor. Because a lot of companies are realizing, like, why are we paying this giant rent for this 10,000 square feet, studio in this super expensive city where everyone now is working from home and they're equally as productive,
Yeah.
And we're just wasting money doing it that way.
It's interesting, though. People who are working from home right now, they're very productive. I'm very productive. It seems for the job, and I'm questioning myself: is it am I putting in, I mean, I know that I'm putting in because I've built up a certain type of work ethic, but I wonder if there was no pressure to save money or make money and you're working from home, how much more relaxed people or flaky people would be with like
That's a fair
delivering.
point. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to say for someone like yourself or myself or some of like the prolific artists we know, like we take the job seriously, right? You're gonna
Yeah.
have a slip up here and there. That's natural. Like you cannot be. You can try to be on top of your toes all the time, but sometimes you just might have a bad day, and if that aligns with the bad day of a person you're working with, that's a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was fortunate to not have that, but yeah. But it's easy to say. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting point and question, right? Because like maybe like sometimes people need pressure to perform well, and if they don't have that pressure, then they're not performing. But that's also like the counterpoint. Don't you think that maybe it's also the opposite, where sometimes like just having a little more time and being more relaxed actually helps you to get better ideas or develop things in the better way?
I definitely think it's like that more so than anything else. Perhaps it's just the content, the nature of the project you're working on. If you're not interested or excited about it, doesn't matter how much pressure you have, it's
Right.
still going to be kind of drained and labored over. But I do agree with that. Like for me at least, it's very important to be well rested, relaxed, in a clear state of mind to produce good stuff. I've always hated my work when I created it during high amounts of stress or paranoia, or like trying to, oh well, what if he said this? Oh, he might not like this. Like, dude, I went through such a long time. I'm not going to name names, but when I was first starting, creating pieces and thinking, what would my boss think? I know that's probably a normal thing to.
Yeah, it's quite normal. I do it all the time.
But it lingered afterwards. I'm gone from that place and I'm working for other clients, and I'm like, what would that boss think of this
that's
piece?
not healthy.
and it was just ingrained for a bit.
Right.
And that took a little bit to just snap out of, like to grow out of, really. But
have you ever had like a really bad experience with a client where it all just like fell apart?
Awkward, yeah, I have.
But awkward meaning like just awkward, or like bad? Like it's just like I don't want to work with that person again.
On my end, see, the thing is, I don't know if I was the one who dropped the ball or if
it's usually both sides.
It kind of is. I feel like there's been several cases where I lost interest, and it starts to show through the quality.
Oh, I see.
And they're like, this is, and what triggers me to retaliate is them going, this is unacceptable. We're not going to pay you. I'm like, whatever, man. So that is me dropping the ball, going, whatever, man, as opposed to like engaging. It's like, oh, wait, hang on. So there's been bad things like that, which is not something I'm proud of. But usually the bad experiences, it's hard to talk about this because these people. I don't want to drop names.
The businesses. I mean, we don't have to name names. I mean, we all know some of the names out there in the film industry that you like people you never worked with. Yeah. But you would never want to work with based on the experience of others.
Yeah.
Like we all hear those stories, and I'm pretty sure every industry has that. Those sort of like weird, power hungry, obnoxious people that somehow, maybe because of the way they work, like they got to that point. Maybe that's what got them there. but it's just such an unhealthy environment to work with.
Yeah.
I've maybe because I've heard about some of those names before, but luckily they never reached out, so I never had to have that experience. Yeah, it's usually two sides, right? But you know, I think everyone has at least one client that they had a bad experience with, you know.
This one experience I had, dude, when I was first starting off. I met this client in Santa Monica. He was creating his art director for this video game, mobile video game. It was for a girls' cheerleader dorm room, and it was like a sim, like decorating your dorm room. It was so weird. And
was that early on when you were
very, very early on? Actually, my first gig ever in the industry was at a game company called Spark Unlimited. It was in Sherman Oaks, and that was thanks to Jackson. And after that, this is one of the first jobs that appeared, like right after that. And I was like, fuck, I'm taking it. I'm going to go and keep growing, whatever. So I knock on the guy's door, and he opens up and was like...
Was in the robes?
He was in his underwear, just shirt and underwear. And it's like...
Come on in.
Well, he
was it Harvey Weinstein?
No. Oh my God.
Imagine that.
Older French dude is like, Alex, you're 1 minute early. I'm not ready. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Please I'll wait. I was like, no. Come inside. Sit at my table. I'm like, all right.
Wait, you talked like he was French. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I'm just trying to replicate the experience for you. And he comes out, has his pants on, sits down, and he's like, Alex, I'm not stupid, okay? Don't bullshit me. Like, that's his pep talk. Like, that's how the meeting started. Like, what is this? Okay. Why would I just European. Met you. And then he gave me the assignment. I'm like, oh my God, what all right.
But did it work out, or was it like it fall apart pretty quickly?
It fell apart the first week. Like I think.
I mean, I would assume like someone greeting you with underwear was a red flag.
The depressing thing was we sat next to his kitchen window, or like dining kitchen window, and right outside is the Santa Monica Boulevard, the pier, and people are walking around with dogs and stuff. And I'm like, I'm sitting here with the guy that just like had no pants on. I'm like, why am I? Should be outside. We should be talking on that table right there, man. Why are you sitting me? Anyway,
I'm not judging. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
I had a bad experience too with one of my clients, and it was I think it was like partly mutual. It was just like I didn't have enough time to flesh out the idea, mostly because I overcommitted. And something came up, and I just couldn't deliver out what I was thinking I would be able to deliver. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've delivered for like anyone else would say like, it looks cool, let's fix it, right? It's not right there. Or a person that wouldn't like it would say like, it's not hitting the mark. Like, can we, like, I want to see more options. This one was like a phone call. It's like, what the fuck is good? It's like, yeah.
I've done that several times. I've overcommitted several times, even with our good friend of ours, Ash. He's had me on a couple of projects, and I feel like every time I've overcommitted because things just come from the side. I'm like, I cannot continue on this. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was just talking to Ash. He said he hates you.
I know he does. I'm
joking. What was your best client experience? Like, where you would like, fuck, yeah, I could work with that person. Do you have like your like Mount Rushmore of clients, or like production designers or art directors?
I mean, it's excluding okay, like more personal, independent. This isn't like,
Doesn't matter.
we're not talking about Fox or Marvel or anything like that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Marvel is up there, right? I mean,
it's on the top for sure. Yeah,
the viz dev guys, that whole department is just excellent. Yeah,
that is my number one. But before Marvel even was a thing in my career, I worked with Alex McDowell at his company 5D at the time it was called.
Mm.
And before I was on it, he had been using Jamie Jones for something, and that was good. That lasted 2 years, to the point where he appointed me art director at the very end before shit crashed. Like, his company just went down. I don't know what drove it down, but yeah, we were working on creating these augmented reality things for Nike for a long time, and that was great. I if that was to ever be reborn again, I would definitely take that. That was fun.
Yeah, there are some projects like that, and people. I've noticed there's a common denominator with some of your clients, that the ones that let you explore your own ideas without being too restrictive, but then take it from there and guide you towards what they need,
right,
are usually like, yeah, it's a breeze. Like, you're not creating 200 versions of one thing, and they have an idea what they want specifically, right from the get-go. There's a bunch of people I work with that are like that, and usually all of them come from like the visuals background, whether they were concept artists before, or are in the VFX industry. Yeah, that's why Marvel is so great, because Ryan and Andy are basically, they were illustrators before, and then not too long ago.
Yeah. I can't praise them enough. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So how did it work out so that you started working with those guys? Well, let's actually roll back a little bit, because I don't know, like, I know enough about you on the personal level. Like, we've talked enough to get to know you, but I don't know like where it all started for you. The whole, like, I want to be an artist and do illustrations. Like, where did it all stem from?
I think it came from watching one particular movie and then seeing my father show me that he has the skill of an artist, because my father is an artist. However, he does mosaics. He's
right,
but there's an entire story about him as well. However, coming from Bulgaria, we lived in Germany. I was a toddler, second, third grade, going through Germany to get our green card to come to America. And there, I watched Terminator on a VHS.
The first one or the second one?
The first Terminator. And that scene where the skeleton is, that jerky stop motion is coming down the hallway before they bar the door.
Yeah.
That gave me nightmares for months, and it had an effect on me. It inspired me. I wanted to replicate the poster, the half Arnold, half cybernetic machine, and my father did it for me with pastel crayons that he had. And I think from there on, just that little thing, I just wanted to be that good at drawing, and I sucked for the longest time up to like high school. I sucked.
I mean, come on, man! Like everyone did.
high school and college, I want to say. Anyway, and I think really, actually, it was in high school I started to realize I have a love for film, because I was drawing and I was practicing figure drawing, and I was really preaching it to my friends, like, this is what you need if you want to be an artist: figure drawing, right? And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I was also in like this after school film class, and friends of mine, we'd get together, we'd make short films, chase movies, whatever, and we'd do that on a weekly basis, constantly. I think that translated into the fact that I love keyframes, because I always thought I would maybe evolve into a filmmaker, director, and I don't know. I think maybe I chickened out of the severe pressure of it. To rewind, I actually started with animation. I did a lot of stop motion, because I was inspired by Wallace and Gromit, and when Aardman released the chicken movie, I forgot what it's called. It was all 3D S Max animated, and it kind of crushed me, because I wanted to work at Aardman for the longest time in my life. I'm like, I was prepared. I have a box of VHSs of me animating things, and to this day, I could say I got pretty damn good for a high school kid. I could have maybe been an intern. I don't know. That's my
right.
Anyway,
but then you saw they're switching to 3D, and like
3D,
oh.
and I'm like, I tried 3D. My first 3D program was Cinema 4D, which at that time was a clusterfuck. You wouldn't believe it. and then I tried 3D, and I was getting a thing. I was getting headaches using 3D programs, and like severe headaches. I would try again and again, and it was just bugging me. Just the detail, the visual stuff. I don't know. Maybe I have an issue with my head, but
I still get headaches from software, even till today. There is some softwares that just drive me up the wall.
You get that nice eyeball headache. You want to drill out of your skull.
I get that feeling where you want to grab your keyboard and smash it, but you're like, that's my only keyboard, and you're sort of like slowly dying inside. I still get that.
Yeah, but that pushed me into discovering. I don't know how I discovered Jules Struzan, and I wanted to do movie posters like Jules Struzan, and I matured into the reality. This is now, I'm in an art center, going to college, and
so you went to art center in Pasadena?
I went to art center.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I was lucky to have gone there. My parents supported me on that.
What year was that? How many years ago was that? It's like early 2000s, right, or something like that. Or
I want to say 2000 to 2006.
Okay.
2006 or 2001 to 2005, something like that.
Got it.
I wanted to do movie posters like Jules Struzan, and I quickly realized you got to be really good. And I'm not doing what it takes. I'm just not doing what it takes. So I spent a really disciplined amount of time training fundamentals, and I realized I'm hitting a brick wall. I'm thinking too much about style. I'm thinking about too much about what would people be impressed by in my figurative artwork, and being that mentor. I was in a fantasy land in my head of being a sifu, a sensei, and it's fine. I love teaching. I've done it before, but it's not. I just didn't have a clear perspective in terms of entertainment, what I want to do in the entertainment industry, and it never occurred to me to be a fine artist. I don't know why, like do gallery work or anything. Anyway, So
I think it takes a different kind of person to do that stuff. Like
it really
it's
does.
I think it's all
Actually, really
personality based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We all
It
know
really
those really
out.
eccentric people that it's like some of them are in the industry, like they are in entertainment. It's like, how do you even work here? Like, like your personality is so weird and different. Like it's very, very difficult to sort of like see you fit that, you know, entertainment productivity, quote unquote mode, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think at that point I started to really open my eyes, and a really good mentor of mine, Kevin Chen, who I also teach at his school, Concept Design Academy. He sat with me at lunch, and I thought it was I was such a fanboy of his, and I kind of still am, but you know, he sat next to me during lunch. He was like, "So, what do you want to do with your work, with all this training, Alex?" Because I think he felt like he saw me not going in direct. I'm just doing foundation, and that's nice and all, but you gotta start practicing. I feel like I realized this late, but for people listening to this, you know, you have to start practicing what you want to do as a career path from the get-go. You can do fundamentals as well, but from the beginning, it is very important. I feel like follow your dream from the very beginning. Don't go through this systematic process of like, first I'm going to learn how to do this. That's good. You can learn it as you're practicing your love. I feel like. Anyway, he asked me what am I going to do, and I said, I don't know. I want to work in games, because he's art directing in games and doing concept art games. I'm copying him in my head. I'm like, I want to do that. And he's like, do you know what games you want to work for? And at the time, I just discovered the very first concept artist, which was Justin Sweet. I used to play Fallout 1 and 2. The loading screens was beautiful art. And I'm like, I want to work at Interplay. It's like, Interplay? Why? It's like, well, Justin Sweet's work is there. Like, okay, you got to look up books. Do you know the art of Star Wars books? Anything like that. And this is, mind you, this is Art Center. I should be already educated in this, I am in a cave. I'm in my own bubble.
You just crawl out from that, crawl out from under that rock.
It was a little embarrassing, honestly. It was definitely a sharp wake up call. I'm like, God, I know nothing. I've been doing nothing for 3 years, and this is my last year, and he's asking me, what am I going to do? So the funny thing was, at the end, there's like grad show, and these companies arrive, ILM and Blizzard, and I made my portfolio so half-assed, like, oh shit, I didn't know they were coming, or I wasn't prepared or something. So I did these paintings and I printed them out on watercolor paper. And people were impressed at the fact that it looked like watercolor paintings. It was digital. And they're like, did you paint this in watercolor? That's nice. Yeah. I'm like, can I work for you guys? I'm talking to Blizzard, for example. And they're like, we have a specific thing that we're looking for, but here's our card. I'm like, they gave me a card. So funny side story about that. I emailed the guy on the card. I'm like, hi, we met at the grad show. I was wondering if there's a position available. I'd love to even intern. And the reply was, I don't know how this guy got my email, but please direct them to the proper person. And then HR emails me. He's like, currently we're not looking. I'm like, damn.
That was rude.
Not to say anything bad about Blizzard or anything like that, but that was just...
There's like 50,000 people working there, so that's funny. So, but you've eventually figured it out, right? Like when it clicked for you, what do you want to do?
2 years after Art Center, and I didn't have a job, and it was again, I'm fortunate. I'm living under my folks' roof, and I'm just doing my thing. And I got exposed to a film maker, a director, Michael Haneke, who did Funny Games and Time of the Wolf and phenomenal movies, really hard to watch. It shocked me. I watched his films and it had an impression. I tell you, a good movie could change my year. Like I could produce a lot of inspirational stuff because, or inspired from the movie because of that stuff. And I started doing paintings that reflected how I saw his films, if that makes sense. Like I started creating paintings that made the viewer ask questions simple, as opposed to a beautiful silhouette of a house on a snowy hill. Fine. A warrior with a sword in the desert. Fine. That's all cool. But I felt like I wasn't connecting with the viewers. That's all. I'd show, hey, check out this new piece. It's like, there's nothing to this.
Right.
I think that was sort of that magic thing that happened. And I made a leap unawareingly. I was told I made a leap by friends, Anthony Francisco and Jared Morantz. They were like, dude, you were here, and then a year, 2 later, you did this. How did you do that? And I didn't have an answer at the time. It took me a while to analyze what had happened.
Just replied, I watched the movie.
I watched this movie. You should watch this movie and tell me what you think. This was the most depressing day of my life, Alex. Why did you? Anyway, why did you recommend this thing? Anyway, so that kind of propelled me into the direction. And Jared recommended me over at Aaron Sims, and I think it all started from there. I started doing like visual effects looking stuff. I boarded a little bit, and from the storyboards, I got inspired to what if I present images. I was so arrogant too, man. I was so cocky. Like, what if I'm going to be the first guy to invent the fact that keyframes are going to be done for film, and then freaking Crash McCurry and yourself like pop up. Mullins already had been existing. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't invent this. Like, what am I doing?
I mean,
anyway,
you would have known better if you wouldn't live under the rock for like 20 years.
it's just humbling to go through these times. I wouldn't trade it in. I wouldn't. People ask like if you could relive this again, or would you do anything different? Like, nope. This shaped exactly what it is, and I wouldn't want to change that. It's really nice,
dude. I get it. Some people are bad at googling stuff. I get it.
I wouldn't even know where to begin. The thing is, I didn't know
concept art for movies.
Concept art for movies, exactly. I wouldn't even know how to think of that. But
that was makes you
Google illiterate.
I think that's what makes you unique. Like you get, and maybe that's one of the reasons why your work is so unique, because like you're just not being exposed to like this vast, grounds of different artists that are out there. I'm discovering a lot of people that I haven't seen before on Instagram, right? Like you go on Instagram, it's like, what the hell is going on? Like I've never seen someone doing this kind of work. But not being exposed to any of that so you found inspirations that molded the way you work from completely different sources. Like movies seems to be like the big source of inspiration of how you stylize your work and how you approach it, and sort of like rediscovering things that have been already discovered, but like inside your head,
Yeah, exactly.
So that I don't know, like that. I feel like not everyone is the same. There's some people that love Pinterest for having all of their references there. Some people just don't want to look at Pinterest at all. There are some people that before they start work, they go on ArtStation to check what's the cool work right now. That happens too. And there are others that don't look at any references, which is very rare, but there are people like that. So I think everyone is different enough. That's what molds their style.
I used to make tracks to the personal paintings I would do. Like
That's cool.
I dabble with Fruity Loops and put the music out there, and then I would show the piece with the track link. But I love Pinterest. I like
great.
saving my reference as well, but Pinterest, man, is such a lifesaver. Like everything is just there. I hope it never goes down. I hope nothing happens where like, oh, we're changing now.
I love it too. My only it's not a real problem. It's more like a cautionary tale. It's very easy to sort of like pigeonhole yourself into a specific style, because like once you pick like a pin, then you get a lot of recommendations that are quote unquote similar, right?
Right.
And so that I feel like that kind of like narrows you down towards, it can easily narrow you down towards one specific path, meaning you will get sort of like quote unquote confirmation bias from the images you get. Oh, this is the image you like. Here's like 10 other images that look similar, and you like start putting them together, and it's like, oh, my board is beautiful. Like I have an inspiration, but then you might be missing out on some texture or lighting, like specific lighting or composition that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be recommended. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's like intentional. I don't know how you use Pinterest specifically. Like to me, it's very intentional. So for instance, you know, I like anime style specifically, right? And obviously, dude, I'm not inventing it. Like it's been invented. It's been out there for like 60 years or whatever. Or even more, who knows, even more. But to me, it's like just looking at different sources of animes from like 80s and 90s and 2000s, just to get like, okay, what kind of like line and texture did they use back then? You know, what was the nitty gritty detail that made it so it's so different and so memorized? You know? That's sort of like, and I would create pins specifically for that. Like this is my board where I'm like literally there's no specific subject matter. It's some of my favorite films, and I'm examining on like a detail level. Like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. You know, like this is how and so it's pretty interesting to work that way. But I don't know if have you ever used PureRef?
PureRef, that sounds so familiar.
It's pretty awesome software. It's actually free.
Oh yes, it's the thing where it organizes on a gigantic
you can make like
sheet, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can make like a canvas. It's great. It's been my primary like reference tool, because it's like a giant, like it's basically infinite canvas that you can zoom in and out and basically drag and drop everything in there, you know, like the artworks, like art and references, and then like you can just group them in specific areas. Like, okay, this is my lighting sort of little group. It's not like a grouping tool, but you can just organize it yourself so that, okay, this is where my lighting references are. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
that does sound really, really cool. I've seen friends use that.
Highly recommend it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great because like you can literally drag and drop from the browser, and it copies like the high resolution most of the time, and you can copy from it to like Photoshop and back and forth, you know.
Wow, nice.
It's basically like a good copy paste canvas tool. It's like having a Photoshop file open, like this giant infinite Photoshop file that you can drag and drop things into.
Does it start chugging? Does it start skipping?
No. I had like, I don't do like massive boards, so maybe that's why. But the interesting part about it is that you can actually save, like once, if you want to export your board, you can actually save it to a folder, and it's going to copy all the images as images. So you're going to have a folder of images.
That's awesome.
So you don't have to go to, let's say if you're saving references from Google, you don't have to save them one by one. You can just drag and drop, pick which one you like the most, and then just one click and it saves to files. It's pretty awesome.
That's great.
Wow. Yeah, but Pinterest is great too. I like it too.
Yeah, I just love how specific it is to just the imagery, and it's actually good imagery. Majority of the time, it's really helpful.
It's a good AI algorithm there. For
Yeah,
sure.
it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it seems like movies, right? Like that's where it all, like, finding inspiration and sort of like affecting the way you think about what you're gonna do on the canvas, right?
Yeah, it was movies. It was being a bit, how do I say it? Not openly, just personal to yourself, being full of myself, like pretending I'm a director, but for a keyframe that I'm
Right.
doing. So that's how I would construct it all. Like everything, this scene I just created, I'm the cinematographer. Of course, I don't voice that and I don't step on toes, but that's how I trained myself to finesse the work I did.
Mhm.
And that all came from movies. Kubrick, John Carpenter, Paul Thomas Anderson, all the greats. Tarantino. I started to just, I became a leech of just like pulling everything beautiful out of their stuff, and it was a really good learning experience. It was a great academy of schooling and
Right.
figuring out why they chose this shot after this, how they edited things together, and which I still am kind of frustrated that Tarantino doesn't have a single commentary track or like behind the scenes for any of his films. I'd love to like know what he does, but oh well.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you watch those a lot? The
I
commentary
used
tracks?
I used to a lot. Yeah, I still do whenever it pops up on my YouTube feed, like the making of whatever that interests me. I'm like, oh, I'll check it out.
What's the last one I watched? I think it was New Hope. That
Oh, A New
was,
Hope.
oh
Yeah,
man. Like
that's
when you
epic.
get when you get when you get an idea like how much they struggle and like everything
Yeah.
was sort of like hanging on the last hair pretty much all the way through the end, and then how it was like a flip of a switch, right? When the movie came out, it's like from this director that was just fighting and putting all of his money into making the film the way he wanted, and then just like fighting wars and making enemies everywhere and basically getting everyone pissed off
Yeah.
on him, and like literally to a point where they wanted to shut down the movie, to a, hey, I now own you guys.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah, that was impressive. Yeah, one of the favorites. I don't watch that many of them, but some of them are really fascinating, especially like the classics. You know, I think the ones that I enjoyed the most were with Ridley Scott and George Lucas, for sure.
I love watching the making of The Exorcist, or
That's cool.
one of the ones I remember. I mean, The Exorcist is filled with really interesting stuff. But have you seen The Fountain?
Yeah.
Turner Aronofsky. The Fountain has this. I mean, they went through a lot of struggles on that, starting with the original version of it, which changed into something a lot more smaller in production. But there's this moment.
Wasn't the James Chinland production designer on it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, James is the first production designer I ever worked with.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's awesome. What did you work on with him?
We worked on this show that was canceled that Rupert Sanders was supposed to direct, and so that's how I got to meet Rupert Sanders and James, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm checking. Yeah, he was the production designer on it. Yeah, we worked together on this little show, like a sci-fi show, but it was canceled. It never saw the light of day, but made good friends with Rupert. Like he just digged everything I was doing. It was surprising. And shortly after was Ghost in the Shell, basically, you know.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, you were talking about The Fountain. There was a making of?
Yeah, there was a moment in the making of where Darren Aronofsky is like pulling his hair out. The scene where his wife, the character's wife, passes away,
right,
and or something's like that is about to happen. And oh my God, what's his name? The guy that plays Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman grabs one of the doctors and pins him against the glass window of the medical room. So it's a set. And it's these moments, for some reason, always are interesting to me to see. I don't know why. So it's such an odd thing to cling on, but Darren Aronofsky is talking to the guys that's built the set, and it's like, are you sure this glass wall is going to hold? Are you sure? And he's going to run here and he's going to blast him against the wall. Are you sure it's not going to fall down? It's not going to fall down. It's not going to fall down. It's like the intensity is building. I'm like, holy smokes.
Damn.
This is what it's like to be on set with him at like high tension moments. Holy moly. Like that stuff really, for some reason, inspires me with my work. I don't know why. Like it makes me become a more focused and paying attention to detail. I wouldn't be paying attention and asking questions like, what should I show in a frame and what shouldn't I, and why am I doing this shot, right? In terms of like how much the shot would cost. And I have no idea. It's like I'm playing pretend in my head. I don't even know how certain I should know, but and when it comes to lenses, and I always intended to learn more about that. But
do you delve into like cameras and lenses much at all?
More recently, because of Jen, I have. I've started to learn more about that, but not as much as I should be. I've been slacking on that.
It's a giant rabbit hole.
Yeah, I bet it's fun though. I bet it's incredible too.
Yeah, you just have to be careful because like once you decide that you want to do a photography or filmmaking, it gets expensive right away.
Yeah.
Word of advice: if you get in like deep into it, rent.
Yeah.
Rent. Test it out. Rent. Like just like the best. I mean, I've went to so many lenses and ended up with a collection that I have that is just great for what I need when I'm using it. But I wish I rented before. Like I just get an idea, you know, which kind of lengths I like the most and all that stuff. And once you get into filmmaking and like, dude, when you look into anamorphics, that's just like, oh, okay, that's like a whole different game, like completely different game. They're so expensive and the way they're constructed is completely different. And then the way you film versus the way you photograph is, you know, a night and day.
Right.
Yeah. Doing a photo is difficult. Like good photo is difficult. And filmmaking is, wow, that's a completely different story.
It's a very different story, right?
Yeah.
I had a friend who was pursuing photography very seriously. He would say the same thing. Like, oh, so is this how you would set up a shot if you were going to do a video, or let's make a movie? He's like, no. I have to prepare for the exposure. I have to wait a bit before I take the picture. I'm like, holy moly. I have no idea what's going on. It's humbling.
So like you flip out your iPhone camera. It's like, oh, I'm making a movie. I mean, you can, but people who like those movies that are made with iPhone that boast that they are made with iPhone. I mean, there was an actual full length feature that was made with iPhone, right?
Oh yeah, right.
But they made it with lights and everything. Like it's not just like iPhone that someone flips out on the set and that's the way the movie was done. Like, yeah.
Even
you have to. It's just a tool, but it's like, yeah.
Even
they had to prepare a lot.
Blair Witch was set up.
Oh yeah, right? Everything is.
Remember that? Yeah. Everything is to the smallest degree.
Yeah. Everything takes like the worst thing is when you have a daylight and then you have clouds that are rolling in. You know, those kind of things, like they matter so much because they change the contrast, exposure. They change everything about the shot. Mm-hmm. And you actually watch like some of the movies try to hide it, but you could tell like, oh, like they were shooting a whole day, but the weather changed, you know? Right. And they just couldn't reschedule. So you have like a couple of shots that are completely like overcast and few, like a shot after is like in the full sunlight, and then a shot after is like overcast again. It's like, oh, okay. Most people don't notice, but yeah,
You know,
if you smart edit.
You just reminded me of that scene where Josh Brolin is being chased through the desert by the truck in No Country. That nighttime shot, and the lightning strikes in the back. I always wondered if that was a CG lightning bolt or if that was a natural take, because it feels so freaking real. Like that moment, how they captured that is so surreal.
That's Deakins right there.
Yeah, right. How do you even know?
I don't know. When you watch Sicario and you look at the border scene.
Oh yeah,
and you realize the whole border is CG.
No kidding, I didn't know that.
the whole scene, the flyover, it's all CG.
Oh my god. Okay.
It's crazy like how much CG is there, and you don't notice anything. It's insane. It's just so well made, you know. Yeah.
It is incredibly well made. I mean, that's something Tarantino was. If you look up Tarantino talking about There Will Be Blood, being that Paul Thomas Anderson and him are good friends, and they've always been friendly in competition. He was asking Paul Thomas Anderson, was like, "Wow, how did you find this location for the oil pumps and everything?" I was like, "No, that's a set. I built a set." So like, there's an example of like, you made this look like it was a place at a time. Like, hands down, that's amazing. And I had no idea Sicario. That I felt like that was on location. Like, I mean, how could have that been? Of course, but
yeah, they cannot make a film on the border of Mexico. Like, true, no one would allow that, especially with like Juarez. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I'm thinking like maybe they found a place with a dead freeway or something. But yeah, that being CG, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's wild. I love that movie. I love those movies. Another documentary that I think made it. I mean, I don't watch many of them, but again, like the one that made a huge impression on me, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it too, The Heart of Darkness.
Oh, The Heart of that's Apocalypse Now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah, Coppola's movie.
I remember seeing that a while back. I want to watch that again because coworkers of mine was like, "You should watch that and notice these things. Notice how this is happening. It's crazy. It's intense." And there's also there's also a Werner Herzog one where they carry a boat over a mountain. That documentary is also really good.
Never seen
Forgot what it's called. But yeah. Yeah, what were we talking about?
I don't know. We're talking about many things. It's good. It's all good. The Heart of Darkness. One of the things one of the reasons why I love it is because it's so intense. It almost feels like, in some places, it feels like it's actually better than the actual movie. Yeah. Right. Yeah, because it gives you all the context of pretty much the whole crew going insane. Yeah, absolutely. Was that the one where the natives, the locals, were so upset at one of the actors that they wanted to actually? I don't remember in that detail, but I know like Charlie Sheen was actually going insane. Like they actually recorded him like being completely mad. Cuts on himself on the mirror. That's real. All of them being on drugs. Yeah. And then like when they talk about that scene that they were supposed to shoot with helicopters, but those were like at the very last moment, everyone's ready, millions of dollars on the plate, ready to shoot, and then they get a call. Oh, those helicopters, they're actually army. They have to go to other place because there's a conflict, and so they had to wait. You know. Oh my god. Yeah, and like basically Francis Coppola just putting all of his like mortgages and everything on the line. Oh my god.
Oh,
Imagine
that's
the
another.
stress. Like your whole
Yeah.
family's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like it's our house." Like, no, it's not anymore. We're putting it all up because I want to finish that movie. And meanwhile, like on drugs and getting crazy.
That's the thing I often think about, actually, is what it takes to be that person, to be of that caliber. If you want to really make a name for yourself as a filmmaker, and be at that level, does what it takes to do all these sacrifices, and just taking these risks that feel like it ends your career, let alone life or marriage. I don't understand how you even get to that point. How you probably are not prepared. You just do it and you face the obstacles as they come to you.
Have you ever read Elon Musk biography, the book?
No, I
So
should.
I've listened to it on audio, like audiobook. It's very long. I think it's like 24 hours of audio material. Same with Steve Jobs. Those
Okay.
are like once you listen to, read or listen, it doesn't matter. But once you get through those, you can understand the mindset that those people have when it comes to, being the way they are. Like Elon Musk, like for him, like one of the things that he did in order to make Tesla and SpaceX successful, he basically said right from the get-go, I'll go bankrupt and go on the street, like be on the street and sleep on the street and get homeless. I'd rather do that than have those companies failed. He didn't care about his family. He didn't care about anything. He cared about making sure that those companies are going to be successful. Like I think it was SpaceX. I think it was SpaceX that was right on the brink of collapse. Like it was literally hours from bankruptcy, and it all got like just a matter of one phone call that saved the company. It could have been Tesla, but I think it was SpaceX. I think those people are, and to a certain degree, artists are that way. Not all of them. Some of them are very much like that, and some others are not even close. But I think, and I've also noticed this is not only artists and creatives, that's also business people. That's something that people don't understand, that when you meet someone who's highly successful in business, meaning they're millionaires or billionaires, right? It's not because they fucking sat on their asses. It's because they have that exact mentality you were talking about, where for them it's all about that and nothing else, and then really, really nothing else matters. Family, kids, friendships, none of that matters. What matters is that this has to be successful, and I'll do everything I can in order to make it happen. It takes a little more than that just being that, relentless.
Of course.
It takes also, you have to be like fucking smart.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just this pursuit of, this is, you're basically deciding that this is your life and nothing else really matters. And then you're putting all your chips into like one basket. And
that is
a lot of people
the root.
fail and crash and never make it.
That's the root. Speaking about artists, actually, I always told myself it's either this or I don't want to do anything else.
Right.
It's either this or I'm done. And that drove me to always excel. So like, that's a brilliant point you're bringing up. It's like De Niro says in Heat to Al Pacino. He's like, I don't want to do anything else. I rob banks. That's all I want to do. And it's like, well, I chase guys like you. That's all I want to do. Okay. Yeah. That's it. End of conversation.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
Yeah.
So
it's fascinating. But it's also like, it's a trade-off. It takes a lot of, energy out of people. It's like you cannot have a cake and eat it, It's the saying, like once you eat it, it's gone. Like you cannot have another one.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I do have friends like that, or met people like that, and it's exhausting to be around them. Like it literally is, because all they focus on is this one goal that they have. Nothing else matters. Like, I mean, I also feel like a lot of those people are just not mentally insane. That's not a right way to say it. I think they are wired differently than an average person as well.
Yeah.
Because like one of the things I don't like about the motivational like books and videos is that like, oh, like you can put your mind into it, and if you put all the energy and mind into it and work hard, then you'll succeed. Like, it's true to a certain degree. Like, you have to put in the work in order to make anything happen, right? I think that's the bottom line that everyone can agree upon.
Right.
But you know, I was working with this guy who probably the richest person I've ever worked with, like in terms of net worth. And I asked him, hey, like, what is your motivation? Like, what is your day like? You know, what motivates you to be the way you are? And it's like, and his reply was, I wake up and I either work or work out, nothing else. I don't care about food. I don't care about how I dress. I don't care about how much money I have. I don't care if the company I'm making is going to be inspiring or not. I don't care about, like, he cares that the company or the product that he's designing or making is going to make a lot of money. That's the goal. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. And
that is very interesting.
And it's the same. You could look at the creatives, like, you know, Francis Coppola or, you know, Quentin Tarantino, like some of the best film directors that are like, or even like Kubrick. Kubrick was, I don't think he was an easy person to work with.
No.
At all. And when you look at those personalities, like they put all of their energy and personality and everything into making that one thing that they believe in so much, right? And in business you have people like that as well, but it's just pointed at business specifically, not creative work, you know. I mean, that's what makes a giant difference between like business people and artists. Like you have to have that same energy towards it, you know, the same smarts.
Absolutely. The thing is, though, I've also thought about this is like the end goal. I mean, it's probably kind of immature to just compartmentalize it like that in my head, but the end goal being the higher paycheck, and then when you've reached that amount to yourself, you think, oh, I've hit the top. Okay, that's one way to look at it. Or another way is just to do a little segue here. I've been watching Masterclass, and Scorsese says something where he's like, you should be doing this because you want to say something, you want to project it. If you're doing this to be famous, if you're doing this to make a lot of money, this is not the place for you. That's his opinion, of course, and everything, but I do take that seriously, what he says. And I feel like I've always been in that mindset. Like, I want to do this because I want to create a visual experience, because I get a rise out of people reacting out of my messed up images or whatever. Like, oh, it shocked them. I did it right. It's like a tiny achievement for myself. It's like, I'm doing it good. Right. Now let's try to do it better and better. So in the same way, like, I feel like if there's something like that driving me personally, the money and whatever, that they'll always be there. And if you're smart and saving and you don't buy Porsches every year or lease out whatever Tesla car, you're fine. You little by little, you become a silent millionaire, whatever you want to be. Like, if you just
there's ways to make money. Be smart about it, for sure. I agree.
It didn't happen overnight, that's for sure.
No, it takes patience. It takes patience. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a pretty standard saying, like, don't do it for the money. And, you know, to a degree, I think we can all agree. Yeah.
I think you should be getting paid. You should want that money. Yes, that's fine. But like, that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's the part where you have to be smart about it. Is okay, like, you know, there's certain projects where I will do it because I know they're going to leverage my position in the market. Let's put it quote unquote, right? Or maybe I can afford to say no to certain projects because then my value sort of becomes better because of it, right? Things like that. If you say yes to everything, that's when, you know, you run out of time to develop yourself too. So yeah, it's interesting. I do have a question that kind of follows up from this because, you know, you eventually ended up working with Marvel.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't think I have to ask you like, hey, how did it happen? Like, obviously they've seen your work, so that's how it happened.
Well, it was really nice. So the guys that worked there, I had already known Jared and Anthony and everybody there. I've known since Art Center. Ryan, Charlie, I knew from Associates in Art. I started. Associates in Art was an old school that was run by Mark Westermo. That's where my real academic training started. Charlie went. And I think once I started to take my work into a place where I loved it being into, it was also probably a good timing, lucky timing that they started to notice that CG Hub was also a thing, and that it made an impression on them to the point where I realized, oh my God, I probably could end up working with them at Marvel. I essentially just wanted to work with that team, whether it was Iron Man or whatever. Right. I don't care. But those group of people, that's such a cool bunch to work with. And I did some Captain America, Hulk running, like fan art to sort of show that I have the interest to adapt to want to work with them. And eventually it took a bit. It took like 2 years. I got interviewed with Ryan 1 year, and he's like, well, we're considering bringing you on, blah, 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 so on. And then something happened. Union shit happened. Like, oh, they can't bring me on because of union. And that lasted a year. And then a second year came, and it was really a test in patience. Like, I went through like these demons in my head, like, you know, the kid in me. Yeah. I don't care if they hire me. Who cares? I'm just gonna do my like. And then out of nowhere, it's like, all right, you're coming on, and I like, I can't believe it. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. It was word to mouth, people putting in my name, and that's also very important, is to be kind and respectful and to help out others, and not to be greedy and you know, I haven't really been that, but I'm going to be honest and say that at a certain point in my young artist life, I definitely was selfish and like, no, don't share. Right. And then I realized that's not good. That actually doesn't help anyone, including myself. Like, if you're not putting your knowledge out there, or you're not sharing at least your thought process or inspiration, it's kind of just self-quarantining yourself. And your mind is your immune system. How do you make that immune system adapt in battle? You have to put it out there. Anyway,
there's one school of thought that, you know, and I used to believe that almost entirely. I kind of changed my mind a little bit on this over time, but it's like, as you put yourself out there and sharing everything you have and everything you know, you're allowing yourself to grow more, you know? And there is truth to that. But what also, I think what people have to take into consideration is it's like with what we were saying about the drive towards like, I want to be best at, you know, being a filmmaker or being best at business. Like, unless you are having that mentality towards teaching, like you have to, not every great artist is a great teacher. Like I know it for a fact.
Yep.
I've worked with so many of them already through Learn Squared that I just know it for a fact. And some of the greatest artists out there are just okay teachers. And that's good enough for having a wonderful class, for instance.
Right.
Some of them are maybe not necessarily the best in the world, but they are the best in the world at teaching, you know? And so it's like, it's one of those things where one, like, as you're exposing yourself and sharing everything you know and everything you do as a teacher, you're also exposing yourself to rejection, meaning a lot of people will just take it and either not, I'm not saying like you have to expect them appreciating it, but you also realize that, okay, it's, you know, it's either not, I'm either not as good as I thought on this, on teaching, or I don't have enough, or, you know, maybe it's not resonating with people, or maybe people are just people. And like, you know, when you were at Art Center, how many of your peers actually ended up working in the industry? Like what, 5%, 2%?
Right,
A handful, right? Out of the whole pool of students, only a handful of them actually end up working on in the industry. And it's the same with students. Like you teach them, but then like once you approach it from a perspective of, okay, maybe I'm not gonna teach them all, but maybe some of them are going to be nudged in the right direction, then that's great, you know. But there's also like this is the part that it's like I want to be a devil's advocate too, where you have to also like realize that sharing and teaching is one thing, but being a babysitter to lazy people is another, you know. Like that's the part where I draw a line.
Sure, absolutely.
Because like if you can't even bother to Google very simple things, like I'm not gonna help you. There's just no way, you know. There's no way I'll be able to help you, because like if you're already failing on this very simple task of typing the question you just typed in an email into Google to find all the answers you need, you know, that's where it crosses the line for me. And it's also like, you know, it's also like I get why some people like want to sort of like stay in that, you know, quarantine of this is the kind of work, and I do it too. Like don't get me wrong, I do it myself too. I get asked about the anime shaders and everything all the time, and I'm just not gonna share it. Like fuck you.
It's your thing though. That's the thing.
I will. I mean, maybe. Who knows? But the point is like, there's certain things.
It took you a bit to get there. Sorry to interrupt. So to just give it out like that, that's hard.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Right? You know, it's because like to me, it's in order to get to a point where I am with something specific, right? And I will give you an example of opposite of a person that does it correctly, in my opinion. So in order for me to get to a level of like, okay, I've created something that I know no one else or not many other people created. Maybe they have something better. I don't know. To me, like from based on what I'm seeing, this is really cool. And it took me years to get there. And I mean, sitting and being frustrated, throwing my keyboard upwards because of software crashes, and not spending time with my kid because I'm so obsessed about getting this thing right. And then for someone to come in, and I'm not blaming them for doing that. I'm not blaming anyone for doing that, obviously. But to expect that, you know, I'll give it away. And I'm talking very, very selfishly about this thing specifically. But I think it resonates with a lot of people that have their own sort of like quote unquote juice that they don't want to share. It's like, yeah, I mean, you worked on it for years and years and years, and the last thing you want to do, and we have to be like, in a way, as artists, and with the current situation, like with how many, there's not that many jobs, and the competition is big. Like you have to understand that someone works years and years to get something done right, and expecting them just to share it, and then basically putting themselves out of work. Like, not everyone is so driven that they want to learn constantly and be better at things all the time. There is a person that does that really well, which is like Jama, right? Jama is a perfect example of doing things right. His whole, basically, like, last few years, he's a good friend, and he's one of the OGs of Learn Squared as well. And I couldn't be more thankful for him being part of Learn Squared. But
Right.
but also, like, he loves us as well, and we're like in the awesome relationship. But he found his niche of, this is what I want to do, and he built his business around it, right?
Right.
And when you look at his work, he spends those months and months and months on learning things. But that's what drives him. Like, he's driven to do that. He loves doing that. He loves exploring new ideas and learning new things constantly and sharing them. But he doesn't just drop it like, here, just take it for free, because he'll be out of work. Like, okay, I could do that, but then I still have to put in the work to actually make money, to make a living,
Yeah.
But now he's making a living, whether it's partially or not, but he is making part of his living doing that specifically, sharing the work, but expecting something in return. And I think that's great. That's where I, like, to me, that's a healthy way of approaching things.
It is,
where, and there are outliers like people who just basically, I'll do everything for free, fuck it. But there's only one Beeple out there. You know what I mean? And the way he works, like, there's so many Beeple clones out there. Like, basically, pretty much all of the everydays, that's Beeple, because everything looks kind of like what Beeple does. Like, you see, like, there's not that many people that take that extra step.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm just saying, not everyone is so driven to, like, constantly push to share.
It's all this, also when it comes to your work and what drives people to want to do what you do. They got to understand that you are going to be the only person that does what you do. So that's something that it took me 4 years to understand how to teach better on just that basic one-on-one level. Is I don't want to be teaching style. I want to give them the ability to understand where you can look at and how you could pull inspiration from things, but it's going to be your signature, not how I do things. Why? And it's a very simple reason as to why you don't want to copy it. Why do you want to be that second person? It doesn't make sense. They die, you die with them. Like, it doesn't. Why do you want to be in?
That's true.
You gotta build that path. Let's say their work stagnates. Now you're following that footsteps. You're going in a dead road. That's just one point of view, but
I get it. Like, don't get me wrong. I completely get it. There's many factors. One is not being exposed to enough experience and sources where you, like, realize, okay, like, it's one thing to sort of, like, follow someone else's steps, but then, like, realize that, okay, I can now create my own style. I think it takes time to a lot of people. It took a lot of time to me. Dude, I was a fucking Xerox when I was starting.
I wanted to paint. I wanted to do exactly what Kang would do and exactly what Mullins would be doing.
Yeah,
especially Mullins, and I would try to get the same feel. And I realized actually it wasn't. The style is not what attracts. It's what he solves in the image. It's what he tells, and that realization, I feel like, comes very clear to a person once they've worked. To students, it's probably difficult to realize that people that haven't worked yet, that don't have guidance, don't have friends, let's say, that could tell them these things. it's harder to realize that you need to not worry about the glamorous side of things. You gotta mold your head into thinking and producing fresh things, fresh ideas and whatnot. So
yeah, that's actually one of the things we talked about with James Klein. You know, like experienced art directors will like, okay, I can see through your renders,
right?
Basically, like okay, you've proven you can render, much like thousands and thousands of other artists that I can blindly point into on ArtStation, and they can produce similar quality. Now prove me that you can solve problems, you know. And we're talking specifically, you know, entertainment design, you know, or product design, all of those things. So yeah, it's it just takes time, I feel, you know. Like, I don't know about yourself, like when was like after how many years of working in the industry you realized that I mean your journey is kind of realizing that you finding that voice, you know, eventually, and then realizing, oh, okay, that's nothing unique, but now I can have my unique take on it instead, you know. It's like, hey, I'm gonna be the first guy who creates key art, like keyframes, and then you realize, like, oh, that's a thing already. That's been a thing.
It's been a thing
forever.
Since the 70s.
But then you found your own sort of, you know, because you're the way you are painting your keyframes is very unique. You know, there's not many artists that do it that way. You have a very unique approach in terms of like how the presentation and how it looks. I don't think I haven't seen the closest I could tell, but it's a completely different style too. It's like Justin Sweet, which I can tell like maybe that's where some of an inspiration could be, because you said like that was one of your like heroes. But the way he paints is completely different too, you know.
He completely paints from scratch.
Yeah,
I mean, he I know, I don't want to say what he does, but like he does use other tools and everything. But
it's like I've said, like you use all paint and he uses all paint, therefore you're copying. Like that's not what I'm trying to say, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very unique. Like I would say there's I haven't seen many artists past you that.
Oh, you're talking about myself. Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
that do the kind of work you do.
Oh, thank you.
For sure.
Thanks. That means a lot. I think that came from something was born from the fact that I wasn't where I wanted to be in digital paint, so I started to use photo bashing, and I didn't want it to be pure photo, so I started to mix both, and I found a place where I was able to create a successful image fast, and the emotion read exactly like I wanted it to.
Right.
And again, the excitement of delivering that emotional quality, like once a week, boom, there you go, new image. And that gave me a high. Like anyway, yeah, the you were asking like when that truly was there is a pin. I can pinpoint it. Like there was if I remember correctly, it'll come to me, man.
Maybe you don't remember.
Actually, I probably don't remember it, but
it's fine.
Yeah, I feel like it was at a point of like after Aaron Sims and doing the work I did there, I feel like there was a place where I started to establish that thing. I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to think of it as I'm
No, it's all good.
Out of
It's
my
all good.
mouth.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's very difficult to pinpoint the exact moment, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure there are like cornerstones every now and then. It's like, oh, like working on this project was pretty defining, you know.
Right.
And I got some work that I never thought that I would be able to produce on it. Those are usually sort of like the more memorable, but not like an exact like, oh, this is where it all started, you know.
True. Yeah.
It's very rare. Like to me, it was actually, there was a moment like that where I had like a aha, like this is where it all started. I mentioned this. I think people is just gonna say like, oh, fucking shut up about it already. But I was watching Cathedral. That was Tomek Baginski's short with Plattich Image back in 2003, which was nominated to Academy Awards. So it was a big deal in Poland. It was like a big deal. And then I saw a making of. And then I saw a guy with the Wacom drawing pictures on screen. I was like, oh, you can do that. Oh, and they're working in the office and making money, perhaps. That was my question, like, perhaps. Are they doing it for free or making money, you know? But that was like an aha moment. It was like, oh, you can actually make art. And you know, it was like you're using Terminator and, you know, trying to be...
There is actually a specific film, La Jetée, Chris Marker. La Jetée, the movie that inspired 12 Monkeys. It's all still shots, and there's many films done like that. It's edited through beautiful photography and narration dialogue over it. That drove me to think, wow, you can actually create an entire film with just painted keyframes like that. Just fully fleshed out, like boom, with a voiceover, cut to the next. And I actually started working on something that a while back, and it started eating dust eventually. I haven't touched it. And it's funny, I look at some of my old ideas and I often think, like, where was I going with this? I had this idea about a killer. That's it. You're following this person with a twisted, disturbed mind, and then I thought, well, there's so many movies like that. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? I just want to create a shock, and do I just want to edit images I paint together? Is that really? What am I trying to do here? Do I really want to make a gimmick, or do I want to say something honest? There you go. I just found what I wanted to say.
Yay!
That point was, after all these things, I landed on digging from my life, digging from my personal experience, teachings from my father, things that I've gone through, traumatic, non-traumatic, but powerful, whatever. Being honest with my work. I think that's when I first started to see true definition in what my potential is, and beyond. When I would frame a shot for a painting or a sequence of boards, it's how I present the story, how not only believable, but like how true am I going to be to the nature of it. And sometimes that pisses off the person you're working for. It's like, that's not what happens in the script. But I'm like, okay, but I was exploring the idea that is what happens, because that is, for me, more relatable. But I will do it in script as is. You know, the 2-year-old picks up the truck. Right. He's not a superhero, but you want him to pick up a truck with his arm? Fine, we'll do it. 2-year-olds picking up trucks, hurling at buildings, it's cool to you, fine. But let's say, how did The Boys get made? You know, there's some authentic quality, there's a message in that, and I feel like that's kind of where I started to grow even further, is just being honest with what I want to say. A lot of personal thoughts and from my life before. Not that I've lived a full. I'm still young, but it's got to start somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So when you work with clients, how often you find I mean, do you present that option as a first, like your take, or how do you do that?
I learned not to. I did at first, and they were very confused. I was like, "What are you doing? I didn't ask you to do that. You spent those 2-3 days doing this. I wanted you to." So yeah, I pissed people off, and then I would do what they asked me to in a crunch time. But no, now I do what they ask me to do first,
and then give them an option.
And then I give them an option. I think that's always the safest, most effective way. But
do you ever find a client, or like whether it's a production designer or a director, that you can risk and just like, hey?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I like that. I've worked with several people in the past like that. They tend to be those things tend to be indie though. This type of risk taking, for example, I don't think I could allow myself to do it at Marvel, because so much is at stake, the time and the meetings, and you're showing this to Kevin after all, and they want to get this off the ground. They're not gonna mess around with whatever the hell you did. But there are moments where you put your own little thing in it, and it works. That's a lucky thing.
Yeah.
But I have experienced that where directors, indie directors and production designers, like they tell me, like they really love my this and that they've seen of my work, and I just want to let you go and see what you come up with, and that's also really cool.
Yeah, that's rare as well, I would say, for me.
It is.
But I think it takes a specific kind of client that you can allow yourself to do that, and then know that you will be like, whatever you do, whatever you come up with, and there's no guarantee that it's going to click, but in most cases, it's like, the reason why they hired me is to take those risks and accept the results,
That's important. Yes. Which also comes to, and I'm not going to talk details, but that's also how I learned to value myself in terms when it comes to rate. But that's another story. But yeah, that's very important. They are trusting. The thing is, learning, having the mindset of knowing, placing yourself in their shoes, and thinking, okay, I really want to make this great. I want this presentation, pitch, whatever, to be awesome. So I'm going to get these high caliber artists, and I'm going to trust, and I'm going to pay them so they produce exactly what I'm expecting them to do because of what I've seen. So you don't want to just immediately take the safe PC route. You kind of have to have a little edge, even.
Yeah.
I feel like so.
It's a dance for sure. It can be a dance. Yeah. Finding the right way to talk with the client and make sure that, okay, we're doing it the right way.
Right.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Dude, we've been talking for almost 2 hours now.
Holy moly. Dude, it's always a pleasure.
Time's flying.
I really wanted to just talk for hours when we were at Marvel. That's
not gonna happen.
So cool
I mean, we met for a couple lunches, but it's like, even then, like, you're so entrenched with the projects, that it's
hard.
You just take the break to chill out, and then your head is still back in the grind of, like, okay, what was the thing I was working on,
Right.
It's one
Take
of those
a break
things.
to eat your French fries.
Yeah, French fries. Dude, that's one of the things I didn't like about the commissary.
The commissary. Yeah.
Yeah. Commissary.
It must. The commissary. It must be really bad at high traffic, and we experienced something like that before we got quarantined. It was a lot of people there, so we'd have to go to the ABC constantly. Man.
Yeah. When we moved, I mean, our project was moved from the lot later to Prospect Studios.
That's right. Yeah.
That was a good, I mean, traffic-wise, this was horrible change.
Oh, man.
But at least lunch breaks were great because there's just so many good spots around that we would just go to all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burbank is kind of weird because like in the where Disney lot is, right? Like if you want to go to lunch, you have to drive.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be able to walk.
Yeah.
That's why like a lot of people just say, it takes too much. You have to drive somewhere and then like get a spot and then eat lunch. And there's always traffic. Like it takes way too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now
can
we're
be
from
brutal.
home. Now we can Postmate stuff. Hey, what do you want? Like, oh, we want that rotisserie chicken or you want that sushi? And then your bank account is just like draining. Nah, joking, obviously. Dude, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
it's always fun to talk with you, and we actually finally made it happen. Is there? I mean, we plugged your project you're doing with your fiance.
Yes.
In the beginning, we can maybe remind people about do you guys already have a URL for YouTube channel, or this is something?
The YouTube channel, you could currently get it off of my Instagram account. I have it linked there, but it's I'm sure after time it'll start to actually get solid traction. We just barely got into it again. I'm excited. It's a breath of fresh air to be doing something so drastically different from what I generally do on a daily basis. And we're calling it Jenny with Mandra. Mandra being from my last name. That's not actually my full last name, but it doesn't matter. She's the main content creator, so and she edits. And she does her own storyboards, and she creates all the ideas for it. And I'm there to help out with whatever I can. But
nice.
Yeah.
Your social media handles, anything like that you want to plug?
Sure. It's my Instagram. It's just my name, Aleksander Mandradjiev, and my ArtStation. I use the ArtStation Pro site thing builder. So easy. You just type in myname.com and
gotcha.
That should take you there. But
cool, awesome. I think we could wrap it up here. Anyone who's listening, thank you for sticking around all the way through the end. Obviously, I appreciate everyone who's listening. I appreciate everyone who subscribed. If you haven't done that, please subscribe. It helps the show. And obviously, if you want to help the show even more, you can also listen to it on Spotify, Google Play, I think Stitcher, iTunes. And if you like the show, just subscribe, leave a rating if you like it, all of those things. Any of those likes and shares that people talk about all the time, they always help. They just help. They just make the show more popular, more visible to others who haven't stumbled upon it just yet, and all that kind of crap. So
you should be following this man. He has a great podcast and everything else that he does. So
well, whoever listened to it, they already know, right? All right.
Yeah, of course. It's so much better than Collective Podcast.
Oh yeah, that garbage. Anyone who's listening to, if you're listening to Collective Podcast and you're listening to this show, you have to unsubscribe to Collective Podcast, because I think there's an algorithm that says that if you listen to both, then I don't know, so you're a bad person. Funny stuff. All right, man. Good times.
Good times, man.
Let's wrap it up here. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Cool. Yeah, we're done.